all kinds of other feels and things like that. And we never had seatbelts in our cars. We never had helmets for our bikes. We didn't have purified water to drink and all that. And somehow we made it through that. We seemed to survive those days. And yet we felt safe no matter where we went, no matter who we were with, whether friends, relatives, or even our classmates and things like that. We never had issues in our schools and things like that like we do today. So I think it's a different world that you guys are living in than we lived in when we grew up. And I think we need to be sensitive to how you guys are dealing with all of the elements of that world. But what I'd like to do instead of talking is I'd really like to hear your voice. Tell me, because all of you are aware of the shootings that took place recently in Las Vegas. There's been a lot of other incidences like this in the last number of years, but recently this one is very traumatic for most of us, because you're going to a place that we assume is safe and something like this happens, and it's also the most recent of the events that have taken place. So tell me, when you were viewing this, or maybe on the news, or just getting wind of this, what were you feeling? I mean, what were you experiencing? What feelings were going through your minds when you guys were hearing all of this news, or watching it on television, or maybe on your tablets?
I was kind of confused. What can we
Confused?
do? I felt like there was nothing. There still is nothing we can do about these things.
Yeah,
These keep happening.
because they keep happening. Yeah.
It's honestly really sad, but listening to the stories of the people who helped when their lives were in jeopardy
right.
was pleasing too, because they risk their lives and they help out other people. So it's good to know that there's still good people in the world versus people who are bad. Yeah.
No, that was a wonderful observation. We saw some of that as well, right? We saw that after the shootings, or even during the shootings, people huddling over others to help them or bring them to a place of safety, maybe behind a car, covering them, right? We saw all these kind of things as well. And other stories that came that we didn't even see, that we were made aware of. So yeah, I think we heard a lot of those stories. So thank you for sharing that. What else? How about you guys? What else did you feel when you're hearing
confused.
stories?
I was just why, I don't know why somebody would do that to a place that seems to be so happy, or people are there to I don't know, have a good time, I guess, and then somebody would wreck that.
Yeah.
But then it was good because even strangers would just go up to other strangers and help them.
Wasn't that wonderful to see?
Yeah, they didn't care who it was. They would still just go and help.
That says a lot. I mean, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but think about that for a moment. Protecting somebody that you don't even know, that happens to be at a concert, right? You don't even know this person, and you're diving over them to protect them. And you don't even know this person, man, woman, child, or bringing them to maybe behind an automobile or something for safety. Think about that. That person at that moment was risking his or her life to do that, right? Because they weren't just simply, telling them to come somewhere. They actually went into that place of danger and risked their own life, because everyone was an open target at that point, and they risked their lives. Some of them just stayed on top of people just to cover them. So it was a great example of sacrifice, and willing to put themselves at risk to do something very, very, I think, is very godly, is very sacred. But you both mentioned the same word, that it's very confusing, right? Very confusing times that we live in. I want to think about those words that you guys are sharing. How about the rest of you guys? What feelings are coming about? Like when you see this, not what you're thinking, but what feelings did you have? Because those are important to think about, what our feelings are telling us. What were you guys feeling when this was happening?
Also kind of confused, why would someone ever do that?
Yeah.
Why would someone just kick open a window and start doing stuff that no one really would like to do?
Yeah. Yeah, the why, right? Why would somebody do this to somebody? And I'm thinking about, I remember either 9/11 or, Sandy Hook. There's so many examples of these type of shootings that we step back and say, why would someone want to do this? And the worst part, not that there's ever a rationale behind doing this, but the worst part is that they would do this to people that are really not even related to the problem. In other words, if I have a problem with a system, or I have a problem with the government, or I have a problem with a certain group of people, they take it out on innocent lives. They have nothing. These people at the concert had nothing to do with this man's issues, whatever they were. They're still trying to unpack what's going on with this person. But in 99% of the issues, when we look at a shooting, maybe at a school or something, or anything else, the person generally doesn't have a problem with those specific students, right? It's usually just some other issue, and the person takes it out. Why do you think they take it out the way they do? Like, why do you think it happens the way that it does? At a concert where there's all these people enjoying themselves, or in a school where children are there to learn, or maybe at a mall, maybe in Paris or something, or on the streets, or, why do you think it happens there rather than the people go directly after someone else who may be upsetting them? Why do you think it happens that way?
Because they want to draw attention to it and like make a message,
Okay. You're going to say something else?
Yeah, like show like what they're capable of.
Yeah, what they're capable of doing. I think my humble opinion is that I think it's an act of cowardice, because it's easy to just go in the middle of a street and start shooting people. That don't have any relationship with what's bothering me. It's easy for me to go outside and start shooting people, right? It's very easy to stand up in a 32nd floor of a hotel, and it's like a shooting gallery. I mean, you go down there there were thousands of people at this country concert. He can shoot, and even if he's the worst shot in the world, he's bound to hit somebody. So he knows in his mind that he wants the most amount of damage, right? And it doesn't matter who these people are. I think these people are so filled with hate, they're filled with violence, that they're disturbed because they have either an illness or whatever the issues are, that they're not, I don't think that they're, obviously they're not concerned about human life, but I think they purposely set themselves up to do the most amount of damage. That's why you'll see in Paris or other countries where they'll take a car and they'll just ram it through the streets. And it's a matter of how many people can we possibly take out here. It's volume rather than we're setting the sights on one individual that is really bothering me and I can't seem to get over that. But rather we're just killing thousands and thousands of people over this period of time. But I think we go back to one of your statements that you both shared. And you both said that you're both confused. And help me understand that. Maybe you can unpack that a little bit for me. When you said you're confused, about what? Help me understand.
Like, just why somebody would do that to people that they don't even know. Like, they could be, like, the most innocent person ever, or, like, something, but then, like, they don't know who they are, but they'll still, like, just, like, take them down.
Yeah. And when you're feeling, I guess, when you see all this, and we feel confused, we feel we don't know the reasons why this is happening. We feel when you step back after you've watched all this, what are you also feeling? I mean, what else is going on inside of your head, inside of your mind? What other feelings?
I'm helpless. Like, what can we do now?
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, there's nothing we can do, whether it's us as just civilians or political figures or whatever it is. I feel like there's nothing we can do right now. Because we keep raising all the security, but there's still nothing that's changing.
That's very true, right? Look at all the security we have in the airports today than we had, say, 5-10 years ago. We have all these security measures, and yet if I ask any of you, do you feel really more safe in your world? You'll probably say, not really. In fact, I don't feel very safe at all. Even though we've got all these security measures, say at the airport through customs and everything else, right? Or maybe we go through a concert and they wand everybody, or they go through schools, and there's certain securities that we all have for things, and there are certain people of importance that have security details and all that. But for those of you that are the average citizen like you and I don't have bodyguards around me. And I don't think any of you do, unless you do and I don't know that. But, I don't think you do. So that could be a very scary world to live in. And I guess that's what I was feeling, is I was feeling very scared that the places that I think should be safe are no longer safe anymore. And I don't just mean when we go to Iraq, or we go to Iran, and we go to Afghanistan, and we're a theater of battle, then we would assume it's going to be unsafe. But I should be able to go to a concert and feel safe. I should be able to go to the school and I should feel safe there. I should be able to play in my neighborhood and feel safe. I should be able to take a trip to London and feel safe in the streets. In other words, those assumptions, I think, are valid assumptions. At least they were years ago. But nowadays, we don't have that same safety. We don't have that sense of safety anymore. And I think that's why we have all this anxiety today. And I share your anxiety, because I have that same fear and anxiety inside myself. Even though I believe very much so in my Lord, I still feel very at risk. In other words, no matter where we're going today, because I think the world is a much unsafer place, and the evil one is going to inspire these people to find ways around the security. He's going to find ways where people are gathered together for a nice time and do something very terrible to them. So just like a thief in the car, we can have all the alarms we want on a car. If a thief is smart enough, he's going to get into your car, right? So no matter how safe we make our car, how safe we make our homes, somehow a thief, if he or she is smart enough, they'll get inside that car or inside that house. So even as safe as we try to make our world, it's still not as safe as we'd like to feel. But on the other side, you mentioned something that's very powerful. You both mentioned something, I think, about that in spite of the ugliness of the events like this, that something out of this comes which is very powerful, very beautiful. We mentioned about people that come to the rescue of other people. I mean, to me, even though my hearts go out to the families that have lost their loved ones, or they're injured, whether it's the Boston Marathon, because I was actually in Boston when that happened. I remember I was leaving the VA hospital. I was visiting Tony Correa, who was there, one of our parishioners at the time. And I remember leaving, and I hear the streets rumble because of the bomb that had taken place. I had no idea what that was. And so it happened just even in our own city, not too far away, that, again, all these innocent people, and my heart goes out to all those that were injured that day. Forget about those that lost their lives, but even those that were injured, and they have to live with, maybe with a special, life situation now that's a lot different than it was before, because they have to, because they were paralyzed or whatever have you. But I think something comes out of that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well. What comes out of some of these horrible, horrible events sometimes that we see? Whether it's the Boston Marathon, maybe the shooting that took place the other day in Las Vegas. You could probably think of other examples that come to mind that you've seen on television. What's something that happens out of these events, out of these horrible events, that's something that is unexpected?
Like everyone comes together and like works together to try to do something, even though like it might not be possible to do something. Like everyone still tries and like helps each other out, even if they don't know them.
I think that's very powerful. I mean, that's how I see it. I see how many people were at this concert. Thousands, right? Maybe 40,000, 20,000. I have no idea how many were in this outside concert. There must have been quite a few. And my guess is that 80% of them didn't know each other. Maybe a small family knew each other, but the majority didn't know each other, so to speak. And out of the midst of this tragedy, all of a sudden, it didn't matter, what family you were from. Didn't matter if you were, what gender you were. Didn't matter what political party you were part of. Didn't matter if you were at this concert, or if you liked this song or that song, or if you were staying in Las Vegas, or if you were a resident somewhere. None of that mattered. The only thing that mattered is that someone's life needed saving, and I was there. I can help this person. And so I think it tells me that there's this beacon inside of all of us that shines in the midst of these horrible tragedies. I think about a friend of mine that was in the North Tower when it had gone down in the Twin Towers. And I know his family, and he was part of Merrill Lynch, part of this company that was there, and he was responsible for making sure all of his people got down those stairs and got out of that building, even though he wound up dying himself, because he made sure that all his business family, in other words, all the people that worked with him, all his employees, and anybody else, made sure they all got to safety, and he went back up to see if anybody else was left, and he didn't make it down. Now, he didn't have to do this. He was a businessman. These weren't his family. And I'm thinking, as he's doing this, isn't he thinking about his own life? Or that I may never see my own family if I stay up here? But what spoke louder to him, just like it did to those people at the concert, is saving someone else's life at that moment is more important than even my own family at that moment. I mean, that's huge when I think about that. Because that must have been, I wasn't in their shoes, but that must have been what they were thinking. That at that very moment, I have to take care of the need of this person. I have to help save them. I have to repair whatever damage is being done in whatever little way that I can. And to me, that's where God is present. To me, God is present in those people. We oftentimes feel that, and there are some parts of our theology that would say that only those that are in the Orthodox Church are saved, and you have to be part of the church, you have to be baptized, and so forth. And then I see acts like this. I see people that are outside the church that do godly things. So my own humble opinion is that oftentimes God is present in these very lives, so much so, even though they're not part of our faith, and yet they do godly things and they're moved by God, and they've given up their life oftentimes to help other people. And even Jesus says, he who gives his life for another human being, right, is the greatest gift that you can do in this world. So I think about these people that are giving their life, not because they're a soldier fighting for their country, right? But, and the family knows that, and the family's supporting them, and we're supporting them. But these are people doing random acts of the ultimate